So with that, we'll turn it to today. I'd like to welcome Roby Miller. Roby and I have known each other for a little while, but so like we normally do with these, so I'll ask a few questions, do a little Q&A up here, then I'm going to open up to the audience. So be thinking about the questions you'd like to ask Roby. But Roby, kind of take me back to when you and I first met. You had an idea and I think a little bit of code done. Start off, where did you start?
Yeah, so I think we met at, I'd heard about the demo fund, and I heard you were the guy to kind of help with that.
Well, actually, he's the guy, but
but yeah, that's where we met, and I guess that was 2012, and I had no idea what I was doing then at all. And I think with your guidance, we put together a nice little business plan, and then pitched to the demo fund, and which I thought was kind of cool, is where the story kind of starts, is that the state of Iowa believed in Telepharm before anybody else really believed in Telepharm, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was that the first money in? I mean, besides your own?
I had a little bit of money in, and then it was kind of contingent on, if we got the demo fund, then other people would throw money in too.
Yeah, I love those contingencies. If everybody else is in, I'm in. That's an Iowa thing. If everybody else is in, I'm in. But good luck finding the first one to get in.
So that's that. I'd say that the state of Iowa, and then Adam and Roby were kind of the first ones in.
And those are some local angels over in the Iowa City area.
Yep.
So back up and tell us what Telepharm is, for those who, there's probably a few in the area that really don't know exactly what you're doing.
Sure. So Telepharm we're a telepharmacy software company, and what that means is that we enable pharmacy owners to expand to rural areas that don't have a pharmacy there, or they may own a small rural pharmacy that isn't necessarily profitable. And what we can do is we can enable that pharmacist to do his job remotely. So a pharmacist verifies prescriptions and counsels patients. Those are kind of the two main responsibilities. And our software enables that pharmacist or multiple pharmacists to verify prescriptions for a telepharmacy, and then also counsel those patients that come in as well too. So if you were a patient coming into the telepharmacy, everything looks exactly the same. There's pharmacy technicians working there as well. And when you want to speak to the pharmacist, you walk into a tablet and video conference with that pharmacist. And then we have a couple other products that we released too. So the workflow of that is the remote verification and then the counseling, and we split those into two separate products because we had people that wanted each one as their own product as well. So it's kind of workload sharing between pharmacies, and then what we call telecounsel, which is basically kind of like a glorified HIPAA-compliant Skype is kind of the easiest way to utilize it.
But I think what was interesting to me is, you can go in and get a refill of your prescription at a local, like I go to the Hy-Vee pharmacy, and I'll never see the pharmacist. But with this, they all see the pharmacist. Is that correct?
Right. So every patient that comes in there is counseled by a pharmacist when they come through video.
Yeah. Well, what was compelling to me when we first talked about this was the idea of what it does for small towns, not just in Iowa, but other places. That a pharmacist, it's pretty hard to get a pharmacist to want to go live in a really, really small town with an aging population and maybe not a lot of opportunities. But it's a lot easier to get a tech to be willing to do that and to have a storefront.
Yep.
And I love those small towns that are vibrant downtown, and you see the ones where everything's closed, and it's pretty rough. So back up and tell us how you got there. How did you come about this idea? What were you doing at the time, and how did you come up with the idea?
Sure. So I was working for Pearson in Iowa City, and I was a program manager, so nothing too special at all. And I'd always been looking for a way to start a business, and whatever that might be. I would buy and sell cars and motorcycles on Craigslist, and it was kind of like a little side business I had going on. And then my family owns a couple rural pharmacies, and they closed two of those stores, kind of to get an idea of why the market is. Insurance reimbursements are the revenue for pharmacies, and as those are declining, because we're trying to cut healthcare costs, you need a certain amount of volume to keep a store open. So they had closed two of those. They had 3 other smaller stores too, and the way that the market was going to, you could tell that those were going to close as well. So my dad had heard about telepharmacy from North Dakota, and the only thing I really helped out with the pharmacies was, checking out different softwares or helping them with those kind of decisions. And when I looked into telepharmacy for them, the North Dakota, they were just using video conferencing, just a Polycom solution, and I was like, there's no auditability with this at all. It was like $40,000, and it just didn't really make any sense to utilize that. And you couldn't scale it either. You couldn't use multiple pharmacists. It was more of a one-to-one solution. And then ScriptPro had a solution out too, but it was made for the Department of Defense, and it was $100,000 up front and $900 a month. And so really both those solutions didn't really work. And so I kind of took it on as a weekend project to just build out this kind of a very simple, you take an image of a prescription and then you send it off to a pharmacist to have it verified. And so it was fairly simple the way we built out the first time. And we built I found a guy on Elance that was from India, and him and I worked, basically when I get off work, I would go work on the application, and did that for a couple of months. And we actually launched the first telepharmacy in Iowa with that software. It was not scalable at all, and probably not HIPAA compliant at all either. But we just were trying to kind of prove the concept and see if it worked or not. And we got a lot of attention for the first one opening. Brandside came out for the grand opening, and then we had a bunch of other people asking if they could use the software as well too. And after looking into the market, decided this could be a pretty successful business, and there was enough people that have done telepharmacy too, so it was pretty low on the adoption curve. But I thought this is kind of my chance to get started and do that, and that's when we went and got the demo fund too.
Okay.
It's kind of kicked things off.
So that was 2012.
Yep.
2 years later, you've just closed an investment round.
Yep.
You can tell everybody about that.
Yep. So we just closed. We called our Series A, and it was with Papa John, and Bruce Rastetter, and it was for $2.5 million, and it's really geared towards kind of scaling out the business. So hiring sales, operations, marketing, advertising, basically everything you need to get a business off the ground.
So you just gotten a whole lot busier.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because I'm more busy with certain things, but now that we have 15 people,
right?
That has taken a lot off my plate, and it's kind of funny because as we're going throughout the day, everyone's like, how did you do this when it was just like 3 people? I was like, yeah, I did. I filled a lot of roles.
Yeah, right.
And worked a lot of hours,
yeah,
but
that's the answer, right?
Yeah,
it's a tremendous number of hours.
Yeah, and I still don't even know how that was even possible. Doing some of that stuff.
Yeah, I think you just get through one day at a time, don't you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
You just don't. If you don't look up, you're okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
There's a few people have been through this in the room. Yeah. So, okay. So, do you have a programming background? Do you have a degree? Did you go to college?
Yeah. So I went to Iowa, and I wanted to do just an entrepreneurship degree because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I was pretty flexible on that part too, so I basically just took as many entrepreneurship classes as I could, and we called it an entrepreneurship degree. I think there is an entrepreneurship degree now, but at the time there wasn't then. And then when I was at Pearson, they paid for this, it's not a graduate program, but it's this project management thing at Stanford that I went through with that too. Sure. And actually it was a 6-week course, but that was actually really helpful for a lot of things that I do with Telepharm too.
Yeah, I got to ask you that because a lot of people don't understand what you can learn. We put professional project management into my company, and I was one of those people going, "Why do we need to do this? Why do we need?" I was on the side that was saying, pay for this.
Yeah.
So it was coming out of my account. I'm like, "Why am I paying for this?" And after we've been through it, I was like, "Okay, now I know why I'm paying for it." But what made a difference?
At the time at Pearson, I shouldn't have been a person that went through that program because I was lower down, but I just heard about the program, so I tried really, really hard to get into it, and somehow got accepted into it. But when I left Pearson, I was in my company in Telepharm. They talked a lot about structure and your culture and trying to combine those two, and how do you balance those two. And so a lot of the things I would look back at slides and stuff and be like, wow, that actually applies to Telepharm right now. So with Pearson, it did nothing for me there, but
now it matters.
Yeah.
It's funny how once you're in charge, it all starts to matter, isn't it?
Yeah. You think about things way differently when you've got a bunch of people under you.
So 15 people. The code's in-house now?
Yep. So
right.
remote, about half remote, half in the office too, and most of the remote people are developers.
All right. Cool. So how many customers now? Is that something you can talk about? I don't know if there's something we can't talk about, let us know. But how many customers? How many prescriptions?
I'm very open. So we went through kind of a weird transition too. So we switched from our version 1, what we call version 1 software, to version 2. And we have a pretty big backlog to get people started, but we didn't want to put people on version 1. Right. Because we'd have to migrate data and do all these things. And version 1 was kind of a conglomerate of a dev shop out of Chicago and then a few developers on staff too. So and until you get the people that actually architect it out and build it from the ground up is when they want to support it too. So that transition was kind of hard. But so we just released our version 2 last week. And so now we're starting to add people on. But right now we have 8 pharmacies on our version 1, and then we just got 4 started on our version 2. And once we kind of give it the green light to go forward, we have, I would say, like 40 pharmacies that are just waiting on us pretty much to get going.
Now, if one pharmacy can have multiple remote sites as well, right?
Yep.
And I think that's one of the powers of this. What's interesting to me is that when you look at it from the business side, suddenly one pharmacist is enabled to make a larger volume of revenue flow. Let's be honest, it's about the revenue.
Yeah.
And yet do a better job serving their clients.
Yeah. So kind of, I guess you can kind of see, like when my family did we converted 2 pharmacies to telepharmacies because we would have closed those pharmacies if we wouldn't have converted them. So we went from let's say 5 traditional stores and opened up another pharmacy without a pharmacist. So we increased our revenue, and then the other 2 that they're really small stores would have closed those, eliminated the pharmacist out of that. So a pharmacist makes like $115,000 or so. So by removing those 2, we basically removed $250,000 from operating expense, and then increase the revenue as well. So it's a total game changer for pharmacy. And an example, like in the market, so in Illinois, there's 178 communities that have a health clinic but no pharmacy, right. And 152 towns with only 1 pharmacy in it too. And a lot of people keep those little pharmacies around because it increases their buying power, even though they lose money, which it's not the best way.
It's interesting math.
Yeah, you basically lose money in a little store, but it's $1 million $1 million in purchase, so you want to keep it around for buying power.
Interesting. Let's open it up for some questions from the audience.
Roby, one of the issues, of course, is the word pharmacy in each state. Talk a little bit about, you got some exemptions, you got some, that they really structured around your specific situation, is that correct?
Yeah, the laws weren't in place. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so in Iowa, you could do, telepharmacy's been legal for probably 10 years. But they required an automated dispenser to be in the telepharmacy, and those are like $200,000 or so, somewhere around there. So it wasn't feasible to open up a telepharmacy with an automated dispenser. That's why no one ever opened up a telepharmacy. And we had, I think over 80. Well, I know there was 46 pharmacies in the last, I think, year that closed in Iowa. So we're seeing a pretty big decline in rural pharmacies, which usually your rural pharmacy is really important to a community because if you have a health clinic, you need a pharmacy. They kind of go hand in hand. But we got approval from the board, and we weren't really doing anything different. I mean, there's 26 states now that have telepharmacy approved the way that we want to do telepharmacy. It was more back in early 2000s when you had those big ATM dispensing machines that they wanted to put in every health clinic, but none of them really made sense. They just weren't financially viable for even health clinics too. So there's a lot of kind of changing laws or rules for it too, and pharmacy is tough too. It's the highest regulated industry the U.S. pharmacy market is in the world. So it's like one of the hardest places at a startup, I think.
Brian.
How do you keep 40 customers a day while you're having to patiently wait for version 2?
Yeah, that's a great.
How do you
keep all those customers on the line?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, we're kind of the only solution right now, so that's been pretty easy.
Good answer. We're the only one.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of people. There's not a lot of people innovating in retail pharmacy software either. So we don't have. I mean, there's pharmacy management systems out there, but they want to partner with us because if we open a new store or we keep one of their stores open, it's just another license for them. Another example too is like there's barely any web-based pharmacy management systems too, and I think because the barrier to get into the pharmacy market is pretty tough too. But I mean, yeah, I mean we send an email. I mean sometimes they'll question like what's going on, but most of the time they're just so excited about keeping a store open or opening a new store, growing their business because most independent retail pharmacies, they're either growing pretty rapidly by acquiring or they're selling out or closing.
So there's a lot of churn in the market.
Yeah, there's a lot of consolidation right now. The average age of an independent owner is 63 years old.
Wow.
So there's a huge exodus. I mean, somehow there's like this perfect storm for telepharmacy right now. I don't know how I landed on that.
You planned all that, right? I mean, this was all logically planned out, right?
Right, yeah.
What's your pricing model?
So we do, it's software as a service, but we do charge $12,000 up front, and it's for hardware, software installation. Even our hardware is like $1,000, if that. But everybody in the pharmacy industry is so used to this big upfront fee, and we started with $7, and they're like, oh, that's great, that's really cheap. And I'm like, okay, well, it's $12. and we just kind of keep going up from there. And then on the monthly, we try to do more of a tiered pricing, so the more prescriptions they do, so it aligns with their revenue as well, too.
Sure.
I'm curious, are you seeing other entities interested in opening pharmacies now? So like nursing homes, I know, have a large pharmacy need. They often have there's other companies in that. And I'm curious if you're seeing other maybe non-traditional pharmacy.
So is it causing market expansion from non-traditionals?
Market expansion in areas that or maybe it's too early to see.
A little bit. I mean, people are getting pretty creative. I mean, every sales call that we have, we learn something new about the pharmacy industry, which is kind of cool. But we have one company that's going to open up they're strictly a closed-door pharmacy, which is for long-term care. So in pharmacy, there's hospital, retail, and closed-door, which are drastically different, and they go by different rules. And it makes no sense. And every state governs their own laws, too, which also makes no sense. But they're going to open up a telepharmacy on a nursing home campus. So it's their first retail store they're getting into, which is pretty interesting. So we'll see if that trend kind of continues too.
One thing I didn't know about that you taught me, because I have a background in distribution side of the logistics of getting products to the end customer, was there already are deliveries of pharmaceuticals out in these rural areas from pharmacists because they're already delivering to these small nursing homes and other facilities. So the distribution, talk to us a little bit about how that works. I found it very interesting. It was already there.
Yeah, so I mean, there's mail order too, which is delivered right to the doorstep. And I think the future of pharmacy is going to be like a hyper-local mail order. So you've still got these small storefronts, but then they also do mail order as well for refills and whatnot, because the problem is that people usually just don't get their medication at all. And so you need that kind of physical location for, I go to the doctor and I need that medication immediately. Or we're going to have, I can see more too, is every health clinic will have a little mini telepharmacy in it too, because that makes a lot more sense. Like why do we go to the doctor and then drive across town
right.
to get that prescription? And usually, most of it, I think it's like 30% of the time, people don't even go fill that script. So there's a huge problem there already, the way it is.
And the distribution network's already in place. I mean, the back-end systems to distribute it all is there.
Yeah, so McKesson, Cardinal, Amerisource, they have a shipment that goes to every pharmacy every single day. So they have a huge distribution network already out there.
Yeah.
Can you compare and contrast your experience in racing to Series A versus earlier, like seed or family rounds?
Yeah, so what was it like to?
It was a lot different, that's for sure. angel and seed, it was more. In both cases, they're both investing in the person. Like you can tell that's one of their main things. But seed and angel, they're in the seed round or angel round, they're a little more hands-on in the business, just because they're very interested in they might have a personal interest in it as well. But as far as like, showing them a very official deck and that kind of stuff, that's not as important for that seed round. When going towards the Series A, we had a very official deck, and it was more, I guess, more intense meetings too. Questioning, kind of going line by line through financials, and really understanding the model and where it can go and how they can help, and a lot of questions on like when can we exit, how can we exit, how big does that look? And then the meetings after that are pretty intense too, and that might just be like who my investors are, but very serious meetings.
But
and
it's not just your investor.
No, and it's line by line,
yeah.
and questioning like why you did this, why you did that, and like the first meeting obviously didn't go very well because I'm not used to doing that, and but then once you kind of get the hang of how this person wants to run a meeting, how they want to do things, what communications channels they want to have open, and how transparent you want to be, that kind of stuff. So it gets easier as you go on, but it was just everything was a lot more official, I guess, in the Series A.
How much equity?
So I before the Series A, I had almost 80%, which was pretty good. And now I'm a little bit more at the point where, like, it's not just me building this company; it's my team too. So I'm going to take 20% of my equity and give it to the team for recruitment and whatnot, because it's when people have ownership or they know they're a part of it and they want to be a part of something bigger, everything just goes smoother overall. So I'm not as much concerned with equity. People have said that's probably the wrong thing to do, but it makes my day-to-day life a whole lot better, and makes managing the company a lot better. People are a lot more independent, which is nice. People aren't sick nearly as much, which is also nice. But I think I'm at like 51% now, or something like that, somewhere around in there.
Well done.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate having to go do multiple rounds again, or you think you're there?
I hope not, just because it takes a lot of time.
Yes, it does.
Just building the deck and thinking through that, and you could talk to somebody for an entire month and it goes nowhere. So,
Right.
I don't know. I hope we don't. Unless there's a big opportunity that comes about, but I would probably turn to bank financing if I could. That seems easier.
Well, you're far enough along now where it becomes viable.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Now, did you get help along the way when you were doing your Series A? Did somebody help you? Because that's a lot of work.
Yeah. So actually, JD helped me.
Oh, okay.
Helped me kind of put the deck together a little bit and build a financial model, and it was nice just having a guy with gray hair in the room too. Honestly, it was like
Thank you.
credibility,
All those gray-haired guys, thank you.
But that actually helped quite a bit, and JD was awesome,
No, I've had several go through this, and it's funny because when you do face serious venture capitalists, you better have somebody that can talk the lingo and has been down the road a lot of times, because it's quite an experience the first time you go through it.
Yeah. The thing that was nice about having him in the room is that he was able to kind of push things forward, or all right, well, what's our next step doing this? Because to me, I'm trying to sell myself to them, but then once they want to work with you, then it's like them selling to me.
Right.
So it was it was weird kind of going through. And once you get one person to give you a term sheet, then it's like, life is much better when you get that first term sheet, because then it's like, well, we actually already have a term sheet. It's like, oh, okay, well, we're going to sell you now. And so that worked out a lot better.
Well, the other thing I would say is it's nice to have somebody that can be the bad guy. Because when something goes wrong, you need somebody to be the hammer. You don't have to be ruining a relationship that you may have for 10 years over one issue. So.
Right.
Brian, you had a question.
Your sales process, just to change gears, where do your leads come from?
So sales process and cycle time.
Yeah.
Did you develop that yourself, or did you help?
No, I mean, pretty much I don't know, I can say I developed everything, but it's more like I made up everything and then tested it and see if it worked, and when it worked, it's like, all right, well, we're doing this now, But as far as sales process goes, we go to trade shows, a lot of, for like McKesson or Cardinal, they bring all their customers in, and then we have a booth there, so that's kind of one way. We just started doing some social media advertising too. And I always thought like, oh, that probably won't work, but we've actually got a ton of traffic and inquiries just from that, which has been pretty cool. We hired a sales guy that actually started today, which he'll help with more outbound sales. We haven't really done any outbound; it's more just been inbound. And as far as sales cycle goes, it could be 2 weeks or it could be a year and a half. I mean, it's hard to tell right now. I think as we climb the adoption curve, it's going to get shorter. But right now, like, we had one in Texas that they set up the telepharmacy. They tried to use this local guy that owned an IT business and tried to set up this software to do it, and it failed pretty miserably. And so he called us, and we installed that, and it was 2 weeks later we had a customer. And then we have another one that I talked to them probably a year and a half ago, and we're going to start them up in Illinois. I think in 2 weeks. So it's really, really different. It's hard.
So the
Yeah.
technical time, if they have the technical pieces in place, technically the time can be extremely short.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
really the convincing and
Yeah.
personal selling, the mental, are we ready for this?
Yeah, getting the board, getting inspected by the pharmacy board, and that's probably the thing that takes the longest is that side of it. And then we have there's a bunch of states that don't have any telepharmacy rules right now because no one has ever tried to do it, and we have a lot of those states. Like, they're going to present to the Board of Pharmacy. We'll go down there and present with them and show them what's safe and accurate and whatnot. And so we have a couple. That's another part of the sales cycle, I guess, is non-telepharmacy states too.
Yeah, where do you anticipate the rest of the states going? Do you see any real resistors to this, or do you think it'll roll out?
Yeah, there's not really any resistors. I mean, there's always like the one guy on the board that has no idea what technology is and is really scared of it. And it's going to take away all the jobs, but a lot of the national boards or national associations and whatnot have created a telepharmacy standard. So we can just kind of refer back to that. Like, they're trying to make sure every state follows the same path down this. And it's not fast. I mean, I think Iowa would have moved a lot quicker, but there's all these like little political games that go on too that I had no idea about. Like when I was trying to get Iowa going, because I knew the only thing we had to change in the legislatively was one sentence that said that the pharmacy board could dictate that what technology solution that they use. It doesn't have to be an automated dispenser, but so we had to just get that one sentence changed. So I went up to the Capitol and was pulling legislators out and telling them like, this can grow Iowa, our rule, we can add jobs where these many pharmacies close. And from a political standpoint, it's awesome. It's jobs, it's healthcare, and it's access. In these rural areas. And after like my third day doing that, I got a really angry call from lobbyists that like I stepped in between. I didn't go through the right network to do that. So that was kind of eye-opening too. It's like, well, you gotta like ask around before you actually do that. So.
And now you really don't have to do that.
Yeah, you really don't have to, but it could go smoother. I mean, if you have more money, then it's easier. You just pay them to do it. But at the time, I didn't have any money, and I just wanted to get this passed. But then, like, once we got it passed and everything, then and everybody was really excited about it. Then it was like, okay, well, we know this bill's going to pass really easy. So then everybody else wanted to add things to it, which then didn't make it pass. And I was like, what is going on? Like, how can we not get this passed? It's just one sentence. But
right.
There's all these little games you have to play to get something in and around to get a pass. Yep.
So I'm just trying to figure out how to phrase this question. So basically, I'm just summarizing what Telepharm is. You go to these community pharmacists, you have to have a pharmacist tech there.
Yep.
And they're communicating via the iPad or tablet
Yep.
with the patient.
Yep.
The $64,000 question, these pharmacists that you've got this relationship with, where are these folks located? How do you go about finding those?
So it'd be the same. So like, let's say that you own a pharmacy in like northern Iowa somewhere, and there's a town next to you that needs a pharmacy, but you can't open that pharmacy because your pharmacist is really the largest cost for that, and it's really hard to get a pharmacist to go out to a very small town too. So you as that pharmacy owner, you open up that telepharmacy, and you're the pharmacist now for 2 stores, not just 1 store.
So for example, my hometown, Pleasantville, Iowa.
Yep.
We used to have a little clinic. We have a little clinic. We have a nursing home. We're going to go to the pharmacy. Closest town is Knoxville, you know that.
Right.
Yep.
So I've got a good friend who's a pharmacist in Knoxville, so he could.
Yes.
Had to go to Pleasantville. No.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I am.
It's okay,
The
most-
relationship with that pharmacist in Knoxville, you know, to say, hey, we want to do a, even though Knoxville, Pleasantville, or Knoxville, wherever, you know, or.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the type of thing.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I think the key about it is you're not changing the way the market works. It's still independent pharmacists that are leading the charge and making things happen, and it's not supplanting the local business person.
I was just stuck on what you said earlier about 2 pharmacists at 125 each. Got rid of those 2. So that's.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's-
And
Should
the-
really eliminate the jobs mostly.
we aren't. Yeah, we aren't really because
They were already.
yeah, that pharmacy would have closed, so there'd be no pharmacist job, and at least it's a half-time pharmacist job, and you have to look at it on a bigger scale, not just like 1 pharmacy, and that's what everyone gets hung up on is like you're going to eliminate all these jobs. Like, well, actually we're not. We're going to increase the amount of jobs, and there's other things too. Like there's a large pharmacy group in Iowa that started Central Fill, and that eliminated over 100 jobs for that. And it's like, and the pharmacy board was like really excited about doing that, but they're like, oh, telepharmacy, we're going to lose jobs. I'm like, well, actually you're not. And if you look at this differently, you know, and like staffing companies too are the ones that are like, oh, we don't want telepharmacy to come. Like, we could help you grow your business. Like, it's a new way of thinking, and it's hard, you know, for some people.
Well, and I think a lot of people don't realize you may be making a whole lot of new telepharmacies open in small towns that haven't had one in 5 or 10 years,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
one of the heart and souls.
Yeah.
You had a question over here, and
Yeah,
then
I
you
do.
go over.
So you talked a lot about independent pharmacy, but what about the chains like Walgreens or CVS, who might have an interest in rural markets suddenly now because they can
Yeah.
do cost effectively, and then also compounding pharmacies, I'm curious.
Yeah, so the big chain pharmacies and compounders.
Yeah, so we've had some really good calls with some of the chain pharmacies, and they're really interested too. It's going to take them a little bit longer. I think they'll probably want to acquire a few telepharmacies before they completely jump into it. I think the market needs to mature just a little bit, but there are like the 100 store, 120. Those are probably the ones that will get into it first, and then you'll see like Hy-Vee or someone bigger than that getting into it. But as far as compounding goes, so our telecounsel product is more geared towards that. So it's like if I'm a pharmacist, I can counsel a patient at home through video. You can do show and tell. You can, and the big part is really that nonverbal communication. Same with mail order pharmacy too. Is like if I'm talking to you on the phone, you can't see that I'm confused, but I'm not going to ask the same question again because I'll just Google it online, which is a lot worse for a patient when you're talking about how to like can I take this with a certain over-the-counter drug or whatever that might be. So we're really trying to push that too, and I honestly think telecounsel would be a bigger product. We have a bunch of people that want it right now, and we don't really have it done yet either, but we have a big list of people that want to get on it right now, and we'll that's kind of the hard part too, is launching a whole new product because it's kind of it's the same customer base but a little bit different, and just trying to navigate that will be pretty interesting.
So Roby, one of the reasons pharmacists get in trouble is because they don't do the counsel, right?
Yeah.
In terms of drug interactions, especially some of the bigger pharmacies where they're really pushing pills.
Yeah.
Harsh,
Yeah.
that's a problem. So you collect all that information on the back end, so from a compliance standpoint, you're really keeping them, you're helping them avoid, it's a risk management, isn't it?
Yeah. So that, even if it was a traditional store, because we want to be in traditional stores, not just telepharmacies, and kind of again with the telecounsel side of things, one of the ways you could use it too is pharmacy to pharmacy. So let's say that I'm, you need a certain amount of volume to support one pharmacist, but usually that pharmacist is so busy that no one's going to wait 10 minutes to talk to a pharmacist. They're going to leave. So what we can do is set up little kiosk things in that pharmacy for overflow counseling, or if they let's say that I'm a diabetic patient and that pharmacy chain might have one or two certified diabetic pharmacists on staff. They could walk over to the tablet and then they get that consultation from a specialty. So it could be like a marketing tool, and then also compliance and reporting tool too for pharmacy. So telecounsel can just go a lot of different ways.
Are you recording the counseling sessions?
No, we have had people ask about it, but most people don't want us to record it.
Yeah, so that's the other side of liability, right? Is there's evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
With the regulation of drugs and the securities issues, give me the trail of the drugs in these transactions. The satellite drugs are ordered through the pharmacist that's affiliated. Do you handle any drugs? Help me understand this.
Yeah, who handles the drugs and how do you keep them safe?
We don't handle any drugs or anything like that at all. So when a lot of the drug ordering process is fairly automated now. So as you get prescriptions either e-prescribed to your pharmacy management system, or the tech enters in the data for that, your system will know inventory-wise if you have that in, and if you don't, it will just order it immediately for you, and it'll be there the next day. So, or if your inventory gets low, it basically just gets automated with that order, and typically the pharmacist has to okay the Schedule 2, Order 2, and that's really easy to do remotely because it's just on a website that you order the drugs. So there's nothing really physical that a pharmacist has to do.
So if I'm a clerk in a telepharmacy and you're the pharmacist, and you can approve the order that's going to come straight to me from McKesson.
Right. Yeah.
So
it gets
the
delivered.
chain of evidence or chain of control is still between McKesson and me as the pharmacy tech that receives and you that approves.
Yep.
When you say drugs in inventory, are you talking about that retail location, or are you talking about the pharmacist that's affiliated with that?
The telepharmacy is just a normal pharmacy. The only thing that's different is there's just no pharmacist there. They run completely independently, like their own pharmacy. They're just affiliated with either one pharmacist or multiple pharmacists, because if you own 8 stores, you might want to use all your resources to help out with that one telepharmacy.
So when I go to a drugstore and get a prescription filled, the tech looks on the computer, goes and gets the jar, counts them out, but then the pharmacist comes and actually watches them, looks at the bottle, and looks at the number. So is all that done by some video? He shows the camera, he or she shows the camera and the number? Is that the way it works?
Pretty much. So the technician will take a picture of usually the stock bottle, the label, and then the drug too. And one thing that we do too is that since there's a barcode on the stock bottle and a barcode on the label, we'll verify those two to make sure that those make sense. And then all of those images with the prescription data get sent to the pharmacist. The pharmacist approves it, and then that alerts the technician that this is good to dispense to the patient. Yep.
And they actually see a picture of the drug from the drug company and a picture of the drug, so they can actually match the 2 drug pictures. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is what he put in the bottle. So you get the visual, which in a lot of ways is more than what they're doing.
Yeah.
In a non-telepharmacy, it's actually kind of goes beyond.
Yeah. So our other product called Telecheck is basically telepharmacy in a pharmacy. So your techs are behind the counter, but your pharmacist sits out front, and your pharmacist is just verifying what the techs are dispensing in the background, but they're just on like a tablet or a computer. And even though it's still telepharmacy, it's within the same store. But then the economic standpoint is that you could load balance that between multiple stores. So if you have a low volume store, you'd have that pharmacist helping out, because you pay a pharmacist the same salary. It doesn't matter how many scripts they do. You're just kind of flattening out your workload.
But that also puts the pharmacist out with the customers.
Right.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So Walgreens is doing that in a lot of different places right now. it's like Illinois and Arizona, Tennessee, and I think Florida, is they've kind of got that model. They're kind of, and it's kind of where we thought, like, we had came up with the idea of doing that, and we were really excited about it. And then I talked to this McKesson rep, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Walgreens does that." I'm like, "What?" So we went and looked at a store, and we're like, "Wow, this is actually really good what they're doing." So I could see that as, because the thing you do too with that is a pharmacist only does pharmacist work. They're verifying scripts and counseling patients, and techs are only doing tech work where they're filling scripts and doing that. So you split the workflow apart, which should make things more accurate too.
Does the CVS model play into this? The walking clinics and somebody mentioned, clinics in small towns and pharmacy. It seem like that model would kind of play into this.
Yeah, what about the walking clinics? Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that an expansion opportunity for something?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, just bringing telemedicine into a pharmacy, is the same idea as bringing telepharmacy into a clinic. So we could go both ways. That's a lot to take on right now, is expanding into telemedicine, but it's definitely an avenue that we could go for sure. I mean,
I was thinking
it makes sense.
There are existing clinics that don't have pharmacies, but an opportunity for that clinic to partner with somebody set up at a remote location and stock accordingly. They have the physical space there.
Mm-hmm.
That can be done today by, a pharmacist already has your system, could go work with a local clinic and on their own set that up. You don't even have to be part of that, do you?
Right. Well, another thing on the telecounsel, another use case for it is putting a tablet into a health clinic, and when as a patient, you're in, you get prescribed medication, and the nurse hands the tablet to you and says, "All right, speak to our on-staff pharmacist, answer the questions right away." So we kind of flip that counseling around, because usually you go get medication, then you get counseled. Where in this part, we're hopefully that what that will do is the pharmacist, they'll end the conversation with saying, "All right, we can have this ready for you on our Second Avenue store." So it could be revenue generating as well for the pharmacy, and you build that relationship with the patient before they even leave, and it's better it's better healthcare too, because I have more questions right when I get prescribed that medication, rather than getting in my car, driving 20 minutes, and getting it filled, and then in a completely different scenario, picking up that medication. Do I have questions then for that prescription?
Well, and you get into the thing with the elderly, like my mother who's 81, if my brother takes her to a doctor's appointment, she can ask the questions, but he's the one that goes gets the drug. She doesn't.
Right.
He takes her home.
Yeah.
So.
A couple of things. Have you thought about building in, or are you building in a way to trigger adherence in terms of refill activity with the patients? And then, you're not big enough yet, but have you considered the fact, there's huge organizations. I do a lot of work with Big Pharma, and they spend a lot of money to buy data from companies that tells them where everything's going and what it was what the prescription was written for and all that jazz. Are you thinking at some point you might have a data set that you can start selling?
So selling the analytics of the data?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely an option for sure to do that. It seems like there's so many different things that we can do, and it's already really difficult to stay focused. So if I give any one of my team members that idea, like one of them will go off on a tangent and be like so involved and so excited about that. So it's like trying to keep everything quiet. Like I have all these different ideas too, but it's but no, that's definitely an option though.
You're hitting the challenges. Yeah. Once the scale is there.
Yeah.
You had a question in the back.
Yeah, I think I just read, this is record recently, you're featured in there, just about the growth. I believe you said you started in 2012?
Yep.
Just kind of how you've got reaching employees now?
Yep.
Okay. Just how quickly you've grown in a short amount of time with employees. What is your growth plan for Telepharm, your company, to add employees? What do you have a goal of, okay, I want to add 15 more, what is your?
What's your growth plan? There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really have. I mean, there's not like a specific number I really want to get to. I mean, I've taken the approach of having trying to be as small of a team as we can with the most senior people as well too. That's been the approach so far. We hired a couple of pharmacy students to help out with research and whatnot, which is actually the state puts in, they'll pay for 50% of that intern too, which is another really cool program that Iowa does. But no, I mean, so we have, the way that I've kind of been growing and, finding out who we need is I'll have a one-on-one with each employee every month. And I was asking me, like, what's the number one position that you would, if we could hire someone today, who would it be and what position would that be? And usually you can find out, if you have like 6 people say the same thing, then it's like, well, I think we need somebody for that position
Do you
too.
have help, I mean, do you have your own HR team that helps you do that, or is that kind of, since you're fairly small, that kind of the accountant, you're the hiring manager, you're the
Yeah, I mean,
insurance person?
yeah, I have one girl who, she's going to get her MBA, and she's doing like some bookkeeping, like a lot of the bookkeeping. She started as that. Now she's like doing a little bit of HR too, but it's a lot of me doing most of that stuff, and then with her kind of assisting me at the same time too. But that will probably be a hire soon, is something that's a little more full-time, either one of those positions.
You know you're growing up when you have to hire somebody to do HR and
Yeah,
admin.
yeah.
Profitable?
If we would have stayed very small and didn't try to scale as quickly, we would be, but it was just too hard. Like, that's what I tried to do in the beginning, and that's why I had so much equity too, is like, we can do this with 4 people, and
You bootstrapped it.
yeah,
Yeah.
there was no way that was possible.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of times being profitable short term is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah, and I was so stuck on trying to get to that cash flow positive, and we did 1 month, and I was like, this is actually awful. Like, I don't even want to be, like, let's just get as many people as we can, to at least support us, that we can actually move.
Well,
and
if you've got
do more
something like
things.
you've done where there's people standing in line waiting for you, if you
Yeah.
slow down to be cash flow positive every month, somebody else is going to step up and do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're opening a door.
Do you hear any competitive footsteps behind you, someone like a medicine chest or someone like that, kind of a natural team?
So, I mean, the competitor I would see right away is like a pharmacy management system, but we've been able to partner with quite a few of them that and usually we allow the customer to say, hey, we want to work with Telepharm, can you guys set up an integration? And for the pharmacy management system, since we're already working with some of their competitors, they don't want to try to reinvent what we're doing, because they already know that we've done all this work and all this time to put into it. The Script Pro company, I could see them trying to change their business model, because they're a hardware company, not necessarily a software company, but this is a software play, not a hardware play. So I could see them trying to switch their model to match what we're doing. The problem though too is that their team is not really engineers for a web-based company. It's more engineers for .NET or whatever they're on. So they have to kind of change their business model. Yeah, I mean, right now, the telepharmacy has been around for a while too, and there's been companies that have kind of tried and failed, but I think it was really that the internet wasn't, fast enough, or it wasn't really available. So some people got burned by it, and I think that now, hopefully now is the time that it works. It's starting to look like it, but we still got a ways to go.
Nope.
What do you think about an exit? Timing and exit?
Yeah, you said your Series A round, people really wanted to know when the exit was, and of course
Yeah.
that's the big question. So what does the exit look like?
Honestly, I don't even know. I mean,
Good
we're not really thinking about it. I've definitely thought we had one company that wanted to buy us, but it was more like an acquire hire type of thing, and that wasn't that interesting to me. I mean, the best part about what I do right now is just that I get to make up a strategy and then implement it. And I don't want to have to get an okay from somebody else to be like, this is my strategy. This is the way to do it. Like right now, that's definitely the best part. And to me, that's not really the amount of money necessarily. It's really that I'm doing kind of what I want to do in a sense, and just being kind of like the head person and having a team believe in what you're doing too. I've been working on this for a long time, and to actually have multiple people that most of these people are smarter than me too to be helping out with it is really cool. So yeah, I don't know about an exit. I have no idea. I think there's multiple ways we could do it. Like a McKesson or Cardinal, it completely fits in their vertical, or a pharmacy management system, that too, or a large owner pharmacy operator too, like a Hy-Vee or The other thing too that I didn't say was, so in the rules for telepharmacy, if I open up a telepharmacy in Victor, Iowa, no one else can open up a telepharmacy there. It's so that there's not, they have like some rules and restrictions so that not every pharmacy becomes a telepharmacy. So you could open up a traditional store in Victor, Iowa, but that doesn't make any sense to do that because it's really expensive. So if you're thinking about this, like, well, let's say there's 120 spots in Iowa where you can do this. It's more of a land grab then too.
Is that just Iowa? Are different states different, or are they all that way?
Every state's like that except for Illinois.
And is that to keep the big boys out? I'm kind of curious why they did that.
It doesn't really make sense to me because telepharmacy is going to be everywhere anyways at some point. It's kind of like trying to restrict telemedicine right now. Like, why? Like, once we know that it's safe and it works, there's no reason.
Standing in front of the train is a bad idea when it's rolling at you, kind of thing.
Yeah. So the land grab is actually kind of interesting because people get really, really excited about opening up telepharmacies when they actually figure that out. So I can see someone like Hy-Vee, not really Hy-Vee, but probably someone bigger than Hy-Vee. I don't know how much money Hy-Vee has, but
a lot.
Yeah, they have a lot of money, but to basically own the product and not allow other people to do it, because even if you have like 6 months to a year with ahead of someone, you could open up a lot of. It's not very expensive to open a telepharmacy. I mean, $30,000 to $40,000 could open it. Usually your drugs are the most expensive, but the distributor will kind of front those to you too.
So Roby, for those pharmacies, you said 63 is the average age?
Yeah.
Rural pharmacists. So you become part of the succession plan, so you market directly to them in terms of here's an opportunity to assist in advance or sale of your business to somebody else. Convert it to a Telepharm?
So not really to those guys, because when they find out that they could be a telepharmacy or their town or pharmacy qualifies, then the price goes up, and then it's harder for the consolidator to buy that pharmacy to turn it into a telepharmacy. So it's kind of we're not really sure how to figure that one out yet, because when they find out it can be a telepharmacy, then the deal becomes a lot harder, because normally they can't find anyone to buy their pharmacy.
So you really don't want to get in the middle of that, because you might upset some of your existing customers that might want to be the buyer.
Right.
Either way, you lose.
Yeah.
Or you could lose.
Traction becomes, everybody will know about that out, so it becomes moved in.
Yeah. And typically, like, those guys, they can sell to a Walgreens or CVS, and those guys they'll just close that pharmacy and just take the patient data. And usually the owner does not want that to happen at all, because it's usually their community, their pharmacy, and they would rather see it be, I think the best way for them too is that, buy them out over time and let them work 1 day a week or 2 days a week. It still keeps them in the community, and that's the best for both sides of the deal too.
Brett, you had a question.
So you have the hardware pieces that you're sending out that they get set up. What's that setup installation? Everybody up to speed?
So the hardware is usually a tablet or an all-in-one PC for the patient, and we don't have a specific tablet hardware because they change so often, and then a camera too for the technician to take images, and then everything else is web-based. So the installation is like 15 minutes. Creating the users, and they can do that on their own too. So theoretically, we could do it remotely too and just send it to them. And as far as training goes, we made the user interface or the workflow linear. So you can't go and do other things. You can only do one thing across the whole way. So and it's already a part of their physical workflow. It's just in the cloud now. So that's really easy too. Like, once we show them how to do one prescription, then they're basically ready to go. And for a pharmacist, they just get a notification, view it, approve it, and that's it. So their side is like really, really easy. And actually, from a pharmacist perspective, they like it a little bit more because all the data they need is right there, and they're not distracted by other things going on in the pharmacy, because they're only doing one thing, that's verifying scripts or counseling patients as well.
This is web-based software?
Yeah.
Are there some instances where hardware is not required, where they have equipment they can just work with?
We usually give them a tablet or an all-in-one PC, because the pharmacy management system usually provides the desktops for them, and they're usually like the cheapest desktops you could possibly buy. So, and that's just like, we solve more problems for Windows than we actually do for us, which is annoying. So we switched to Android because we can lock it down and they can't do anything else besides our app on it. And then usually too, since they pay us $12,000 and we don't have very much cost in that, we usually try to get like the nicest tablet because it just is less problems for us than. Yeah, trying to. Because they want that too. It's easier. They're like, oh, we could save $1,000. I'm like, well, this is gonna be a lot less headaches for you if we do it this way.
So if you simply had as hardware problems to like overnight and do a tablet or something that happens?
Yeah, it depends if it happens pretty quick, we'll do it right away. But like some of the stores that we've had open for a while, we kind of just they own the hardware and the contract, they own the hardware. So usually we're pretty nice about it because we just send them another one. But probably in the future it's going to be kind of up to them, because what we tell them is this isn't the specific hardware piece you need. We're not a hardware company, and when there's a new tablet that comes out or there's a new camera that comes out, get it. It's probably going to be like $400 at that time. So it's worth it for them anyways to upgrade it. If there's no reason to use old hardware.
We've got time for one more question. Wow. All right. Well, thank you very much, Roby.
No, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming